Well, good morning from very cold Connecticut to San Diego. I have 11:59 for my time, so we'll give everybody a minute or so to come in. I don't know about you, but I am not quite set for the holidays. I hauled up everything from the basement, all the decorations, lights, and all the doodads that we put around. I did that on Saturday, Friday and Saturday, I guess I did. And I thought, you know what, I'll have those all upstairs ready to roll. So that was a lot of it. Hi, Barbara. Cold Wisconsin, yes. Hey, Christine. Oh, don't rub it in. You're in St. Thomas on a cruise. Hi, Deb. Hope everybody's great. I have a feeling we will probably run over a little bit on the time today. But this is a fun project, so why not? And then if anyone has any questions about it, and I think my website is showing some of the different balls this year. Don't be sorry, Christine. I'm very jealous, especially on a day like this. Hi, Maureen. Ottawa. Oh, I bet it's chilly up there too. Sure. Yeah, it got cold yesterday, but it hasn't been too windy. Hi, Pam. It hasn't been windy, so that's a good thing. And because when it's windy and those single-digit numbers, it is mighty chilly. Oh, thank you, Debbie. That's nice to hear. I know, Christine. Whenever I'm away, not really at the events because I'm obviously working with Sergers, even though it's not my project or my machine. But hi, Maureen. I know what you mean about missing it. I know when I've been on vacation, it's like, I kind of have separation anxiety from it. But I guess that makes you all the more enthusiastic to get back to doing creative things when you go home. So maybe it's a good thing. I don't know. Okay, well, we'll give everybody one more minute, but I had a few things just to talk about. And well, maybe I'll just do my usual thing. If you are thinking about buying a machine, whether it's a Burnett machine or software, any purchase $1,000 and up is eligible for the ambassador coupon, which is great. And but you have to ask for it from me prior to putting down money on your machine or software. So if you are thinking about buying one, and believe me, it's a great time of year to buy a machine because it's the end of the year. Dealers want to get their inventory down, but it's also the holidays. So a lot of them have great deals on machines and software. And I do know some of the feet are on sale as well. And I'm going to talk about the C28 foot just for a minute today too, because I've had people ask about that. That's the new clear cover chain stitch foot. Let's see who else. Oh, hello, Linda from Texas. Hi from the Adirondacks. Boondock Hale. I love that. Yeah, so if you're interested, any $1,000 and up purchase that you make is eligible for this. Shoot me an email, include your snail mail address, okay? And I will pop one in the mail to you immediately. So that takes care of that. Let me put that over here. Oh, hello from Stockholm. I know it has been a long time. Thanks for joining in today. I'm glad to hear that. I have a niece, a great niece over in Denmark. She's in Copenhagen for the semester, and she has been loving Scandinavia, absolutely loving it. So she's been to Sweden, Norway. She's gone. I don't even know when she goes to classes, quite frankly, because it seems like she's always in Paris or London or one of the other Scandinavian countries or whatever. But she's very bright, so she probably gets her work done. Hey, from Kansas. North Carolina, a bit snowy. What? We have just the remnants of a dusting of snow in Connecticut. So far, we haven't had any big snowfalls, so that's good. I did hit record so I can put my little reminder away, so that's good. Also, before we get started, I wanted to mention I will be at Stitch House in Richardson, Texas, from January 22nd to the 24th. So if you're in that neighborhood and you're looking for something fun to do for kind of a 3-day event or 2.5-day event, it's at Stitch House. You can check out their website on that. I should probably do a little promo video for that. Also, I had to reschedule my event for Rhode Island Sewing Network. The day that we had it scheduled last week was a day when we had kind of a mix of snow and a little bit of sleet and stuff. And I knew I could get there safely, but I was more concerned about getting back home because it was an evening meeting. And I knew the highways would be okay, but once I got off the highways to the back roads, I had a feeling I might have some issues, and so just to be on the safe side, I asked if we could reschedule that. So that is, I'm not sure if it's carved in stone yet, because Diane Martin, who organizes it, had to check the schedule, but as of right now, I am scheduled for February 3rd, so that's an evening meeting. And then in February later, from the 12th to the 14th, I will be at a store called Going Batty. Is that the greatest name for a store? And that's in Reno, and I'll be doing a 2.5 or 3-day event there as well. And I've never been to Nevada, so that will be kind of a fun thing to do, and I'm looking forward to that. Also, just as a little plug for holiday giving or giving to yourself, my threads are on sale. The thread packs, paint box, and the lighter color, the pastels, are the Bayside Blooms. Those are on sale. I will tell you, I have a very limited supply of those. So, and when they're gone, because they take a while to create the boxes and stuff like that at Wonderful. So, but those are on sale right now. So that's that. And also my vacuum is on sale. And now I have them with my logo on them, which is really kind of cool. I was really excited when these came in with the logo on it. So those are on sale as well. And what else did I want to tell you about? The Thread Fusions are also on sale. So that's all for the holidays. So it won't be forever. But, hi from the Catskills, Karen's in Kansas. Great to see all of you. So today we are going to do another Christmas ball. I know I did a YouTube video that was not live. I just pre-recorded it a couple of years ago to show the technique for that. But I had a question about when this one was posted. I've got these hanging up. Actually, I should show you these great little hangers. I just got them from Amazon. But let me just adjust the camera so that you can kind of see a little bit better. These little hangers will hang 4 at a time, I think. Let me see if that's a decent, and it's upside down. So how do I fix that? Let me see if I flip that. I checked it right before I went on the air and it was okay. There we go. Okay, good. All right. So let me back it out a little bit. So these balls, and this is the one that was posted that somebody had a question about. And so I'm going to talk about that one today. But you will see a similarity in all of these designs. A lot of these, this one, this black and red one, which I love with the cardinals on it, this one, are both done with 6 segments, like orange segments. And then these two were done, it's the exact same thing, but I just made the segments smaller on these two. This one, that's, let me back it out a little bit. There we go. This one has 8, as does this red and green one. But again, it's the exact same technique. So whether you choose to do 6 or 8, most of the time, most of my designs with this basic design are done with 6 segments. And if you think of them like orange segments, it makes it easy to kind of picture the whole thing. So I have a couple of things that I had prepared in advance just to save time. Maureen is asking if I use those beautiful threads mainly in the looper or the needles. I would say for the reverse, for a 2-thread reverse flat lock, Maureen, I use a top stitch needle because I'm in overlock mode and I can do that. And the top stitch needle has a longer eye in it. I use the decorative thread in the needle and Serger cone thread in the lower looper, and then that upper looper converter or the subsidiary looper is hooked in, and so I don't have anything in that upper looper. But for a lot of the other stitches, like the twice as nice stitch, which is just a variation on that 3-thread wide stitch that I use for edges. Let me grab something. I know I've got one here. Okay, so for this one, here's the twice as nice. This is the 3-thread wide. I have the green sparkly thread in my upper looper. The red sparkly was in my lower looper. Same thing on the twice as nice, but I just adjusted the tension so that I would get that double band of color. But the green on the inside band is always your upper looper, and the outer band that swings around from the underside or the lower side is your lower looper thread. So I would say, other than for, say, a 2-thread reverse flat lock where you have the ladders, that is done with the decorative thread in the needle, and the other times it's done with the decorative thread in the loopers. And in covered chain stitch mode, it would always be in the chain looper, not the needle. So I hope that answers your question. Oh, Pam, you said you love the trees and snowflakes. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, they're really, every year I always say around December, I'm not making anything else. I've got tons of stuff. I don't need it. And guess what? I just get pulled in every single year, and I think it's just like a fun thing to do, and it's just, I don't know, it's creative, it's fun, and they're pretty, and they make great gifts. Plus, they do take time. I will say that. They do take a little bit of time, but they are not expensive because none of the materials are expensive. And also, it's a great scrap buster because you're just using small pieces of fabric, and who doesn't have leftover fabric that is holiday themed? But saying that, I will say also that it doesn't just have to be Christmas balls. You can have things that have just a winter theme or kind of echo the colors of the holidays. Here's something. Red and green, there is nothing on this that's Christmassy. I've also made Hanukkah balls, And actually, we're going to a Hanukkah party this weekend, and I'm going to make another one as a hostess gift because I know they'll like it. But you don't have to necessarily have super Christmassy stuff. You can have wintry things. I didn't bring it in to show it, but I had a black and silver one, and I think it was the last one shown last year when we showed a different ball every day, and it was just black and silver. And I thought that would be kind of a fun ball to show because it was New Year's Eve. So, but if you had something like a baby shower and you wanted to do some of these things around with blues and pinks or whatever colors you like, or a birthday theme fabric, you can do that. I even did one, I think, for the 4th of July. So you don't necessarily have to stick with a Christmas theme on these. They're fun for a lot of different things. Okay, so one other thing before we start that, though, is I wanted to circle back on the C28 foot. I just posted over the weekend a Serger tip clip on that. This is the greatest new foot for covered chain stitching. Let me get it, a hand and back of it so you can see. But somebody had sent me an email saying, you know, would it be great if they made this in a shorter version? And guess what? When I measured this against the metal C13 covered chain stitch foot, it is slightly shorter, but I think it's such an improvement on it. Simply, you can see the difference. Let me just hold up so the backs of them a little bit shorter. It's such a huge improvement because, number one, it's clear. If you're doing decorative things, typically you want to be able to see where you're stitching with decorative thread, but all of the markings on the toe of the foot, and this one I think is genius. This little horizontal line will tell you exactly where your needles are going to land when you put them down into the fabric. So extremely well thought out, but I wanted to mention the fact that it is slightly shorter than the standard metal foot. So this is going to be my new favorite foot. Okie doke, so that's all set. And what else did I want to mention? I think I've covered all the preliminaries. So let's get to our event. Are there any questions about anything before we start? Can you use the new foot on baby lock machines? I would say no, because typically, unless you're buying something like a generic foot, like through Amazon or something like that, the Bernina feet are made precisely for the Bernina machines. So they won't cross over to other brands. But that's for their presser feet. But I will say that their attachments, things like the, if you had, say, a Baby Lock Triumph or Ovation prior, and then you traded that in to get an L890, and you had all the attachments, I'm looking at me, hello, the attachments, things like the belt loop folder, the double fold binder, I believe the single fold binder, and I'm trying to think what else, because those are attachments that go on the bed of the machine with a base. Those will cross over. So if you've had a Baby Lock and you said, oh, I'm not going to get another machine because I've got all of these attachments that are kind of on the pricey side, let's face it, the attachments will go on. The thing that you need, though, for the Baby Lock attachments to fit the Bernina machine is you need that base, and you need the screws that go into it, because I think the screws are just a tiny bit different in diameter, and that makes a big difference of whether they'll go in or they won't go in. So Karen's asking, where do you order the vacuum? You can go right on to gailpatrice.com, go into shop, and you'll see it. You can click on that, and that will bring you to the website of my distributor. And I have mentioned this before, but I'll mention it again. The reason I don't ship that directly from me to you is I made the decision that I wanted to save you money on shipping. I didn't want to have to add on the cost of it coming from California to Connecticut and then have to go out to you. So the distributor had agreed to ship them directly, and the shipping on it right now is free. So it's a great time to buy it, and you can use the code all uppercase VAC, VAC 15, and get 15% off on that. So it's a great deal. But yeah, so it's a good time for buying all of these things, whether you're a machine, looking at a new machine, or feet. I know Bernina has some of their feet on sale, and probably some of the other brands do as well. And I always like to say I'm an ambassador, but I don't work for them. I do not receive any commission, and or from Wonderful either. So I always like to make that very clear, that I just like to tell you about things that I think are wonderful and work well and are great. So, but it is a great time to buy. So, Karen, if you just go on to gailpatrice.com, click on shop, you'll see the vacuum. Click on that. It'll bring you to the distributor, and you can make the purchase through that. And he's pretty quick about getting everything sent out. So anyway, okay. I hope that answers everybody's questions. All right, so let's get to our holiday balls. Now, you can make these whatever size you want. When I started these a few years ago, I think it was something I had seen on Pinterest. And I thought, ooh, those are really cool. And they had the ones where you folded over and pinned the fabric. They almost look like, I guess, like flying geese. Not flying geese. What do they call those? Can you tell I'm not a quilter? But anyway, they were like the little triangles that you folded over, pinned in place, and you kind of added them. And now they're showing those in circular things that you can use on your table for a little table topper or trivet or whatever. But anyway, going back to this. This is a 4-inch styrofoam ball. And you used to be able to get them at Joann's, but you can get them at Michael's. I'm sure Hobby Lobby also has them. Because I was doing so many of these, I ordered them on Amazon, and I think I ordered like a dozen at a time. They have different sizes, so Prairie Points, thank you. As I said, you can tell I'm not a quilter. So there you go. Anyway. But Prairie Points are cool for a lot of different things. Anyway, so these are the 4-inch diameter. I think technically they're like 3.9 something. But I just say 4 inches. And all of these balls kind of are machined the same way. And let me take these elastics off just so you can see this. I like to use elastics as my guidelines for drawing my lines on, because they stay put on this, and then you can just pull them off, and it's really easy to do. But when these balls are made, typically, if you think of it like a globe, there is a seam that goes around the center. I think that the top and the bottom are machined and then put them together. So there's a seam that's like the equator. And I just did a dashed line around this just so, because I think it's hard for the camera to pick that up. But they also, and again, I think it's part of the machining on this, there's like they almost remind me of braille dots. Let me go to the other camera and see if I can get them. There's one on the North Pole, one on the South Pole. So those are my landmarks to get started. So let me just show you. I think the North and South Pole ones, we need to be up a little closer. Okay, so let me bring my camera in. I'm going to move my stand with these. Sorry about that. I should have done this while the camera was on me. But anyway, there we go. You can see they're like little braille dots. There's one on the North Pole, Same thing on the South Pole. And I circled those with the pen just so that you'd be able to see them. So what I like to do, I'm going to go back to me for a second because I think it works better. I just take 3 elastics because we're going to do a 6 orange segment ball. And I bring the first one over the North and South Pole, and I try to get it pretty straight. You know, sometimes like you'll see it over and then see how it's a little bit wiggly there. Just straighten that out. Just get it as straight as you can. So there's the first one. Then I just eyeball it. I am not going to measure it. These are fun little Christmas balls, and I don't think we have to go berserk making sure they are absolutely perfect down to the millimeter. Maybe if you were selling them at a super expensive craft show or something, maybe you'd want to be a little bit fussier, but you can actually be, I think sewers have a pretty good eyeball when it comes to measuring stuff. You know, just from looking at seam allowances and things like that. Okay, so there are 2. And again, they crisscross over the North and South Pole. And let me just make sure they are right over the center of that. Okay. And as I say, you have to sometimes kind of smooth out and straighten out the elastic on it. And then I've got the third one. And I am going to kind of split the difference between these 2 and put that on. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the other camera to show you. And I think these all look pretty good. So let me go back to the close-up camera. I'm going to, all right, so here it is. I'm going to bring this up just a little bit, just so you can see. Okay, so here's my North Pole. Here's the South Pole. And you can see they're all pretty equal. And again, they may not be 100% to the millimeter or half millimeter perfect, but you know what? They're close enough. And something I want to mention is that when it comes to that, even if you're off a little bit, like I have looked at some of mine that might have been off a 1/4 inch even. Guess what? Because it's a sphere, you're never going to see the whole thing at once. So it's really and truly not super critical that every single one has to be, you know, absolutely on the mark perfect. So don't get worked up about it. Another thing, I'm just looking at this one, and I think this is a ball that I bought at the beginning of the pandemic, and I just want to show you up close what I'm talking about on this one. And just to warn you, I don't know if the camera's very good at picking this up, but you can see a couple of little flat spots on this and a couple of little dents. And I think during the pandemic, I think a lot of manufacturers had problems, number one, with trying to get workers in to do their jobs and stuff like that. But anyway, I found that some of the balls that I got were not as firm, and really, if I was gripping them while I was putting in the fabric, all of a sudden I'd notice that, especially where my thumb was, it would make sort of a dent or a flat spot there. But I know when I bought more of the balls last year, I think a lot of that was corrected. And probably another reason for that was that I have a feeling that maybe some of the manufacturers were having trouble getting materials and supplies in. So maybe they were pumping more air into the styrofoam when it was being made. So it wasn't as firm and resistant to any kind of pressure. But that is something to be aware of. So let me just see. Velvet stitching, but 6-pack 3-inch balls. Michael's was $8. Hobby Lobby was half of that, but only had 4 balls. Okay, yeah. So yeah, you have a lot of different sources for these, and they are different sizes. I think they'll all work, so why not? And it might be fun to kind of mix up your sizes too if you want to do something like that too. But I tend to stick with the 4-inch ones, but no big deal, whichever way you do. So anyway, okay, so that is the base. There are my 6 orange segments on the ball. Now, somebody had emailed when this ball was posted, asking about how did I do that with those center triangles. Well, guess what? It looks much more complex than it is to create. So again, you've got your 6, let me just do it from the top. You've got your 6 segments that I drew the lines on. But before I used my X-Acto knife to cut into them, what I did was from the equator, and I have another ball all set to go to show you this. From the equator, I made a 1 1/4 inch band horizontally around it. And what I did was I measured from the equator up 5/8 of an inch, and I'm going to bring my camera in so you can see exactly how I did that. I think this is good. Okay, yeah, it is. Okay, so what I did, I put little dots right at the equator just so that I could see. And I would say try to do this with good task lighting because it does make a difference. So what I did, I have one of these little bendy clear rulers. I measured up 5/8 of an inch from the equator and just took my pen and drew a line around it. And then I did the same thing on the other side of the equator, south of the equator. And if you have trouble getting a nice straight line, you can always either make little dashes or you can put a piece of tape on like this. And that will allow you to draw a line that's pretty straight. And again, once all your fabric is on here, even if it looks messy while you're doing it, guess what? Once you get everything all put together and you have your serger chains on along each of the seam lines, it's going to be beautiful. And then how I did my triangles is I did the bases so that they met with the where the seam lines are of each one of those orange segments. And then, whoops, it's rolling away from me. Then I just kind of eyeballed where is the center of this segment, and I made the point there. And I can tell just looking at this, like you can see that this one isn't quite the same dimension as this one, or this one, or this one. But again, not to beat it too much, it doesn't really matter because again, once you have everything on and your serger chains are on, covering those seams and everything else, I guarantee you it's going to look beautiful. And because it's round, you're not going to be able to do a comparison of every single one. Now, I started to do the fabric in here, but I have a few more pieces to do. So what I do, and there's no particular order that works better than another one, but what I like to do is I would make the top and bottom ones of each orange segment match. So I'm going to bring the red one down here. Also, what you need to do on these lines before you put the fabric in is take an X-Acto knife, and you're going to cut right along. And I don't like to put the ball on the table because it does take a little bit of pressure to cut those, and I'm afraid I'll make a big flat mark on it. So you're going to go in. You don't have to go in super deep, but just, and be careful. I'll tell you my story. I think I told this last year. but it's worth repeating just for safety's sake. So you're going to go around. Now, I'm not going to cut all the way across here because these are going to just be the triangle. So I don't need to cut that seam in the band in the center, but I am going to cut along the triangle lines on this. Okay, but I'll just tell this story as I'm cutting these so that you can really enjoy yourselves while I'm doing this. When I did my very first video showing how to cut and create these balls, as I was talking into the camera, I was saying when you're using an X-Acto knife, be very careful of where you have your hands and make sure you don't have your thumb, just like this, right in front of where the X-Acto knife is cutting. And just as I said that, I sliced into my thumb. And of course, it was at night, and it was probably about 8:45 or something. And did I have another ball to go to? No. And the one I was working on then had blood smeared all over it, and it just kind of soaks right into the styrofoam. So it was a mess, and then I had to wait to get the bleeding stopped on my hand. It wasn't a terrible cut, but it was bleeding, and I obviously needed to stop that and get a Band-Aid on it, but I didn't need stitches or anything. But anyway, I think I already cut this one. All right, so that's the way I do that. Then, so anyway, I did get out to Michael's right in the nick of time because there's one not too far from my house. And I was able to get a new ball, but I had to get started all over again with that. So I will say, please be careful with the X-Acto knives. They're very sharp, so sharp that it didn't even hurt when I cut it. But not a good thing. And you could cut deeply enough where you could need to go and get stitches or get a butterfly on that. So I just like to mention that as a safety tip. So now I try to be a little more careful about where my hands are, especially if I'm in front of a camera. So I'm just going around and slicing in here. We're not going to be able to finish this whole thing on camera, but I do want you to see the vast majority of it because it really is fun. Okay, so there's that, and I think I've cut all of these orange segments on here. I think. Let me just double check. Yes, there is a cut there. But again, you do not need to go in any more than 1/4 of an inch on that. Let me just check to see. Debbie goes, ouch. Yes, but it was more embarrassing and annoying than anything else because then I had to shut off the camera, stop the bleeding, go buy a new stupid ball, and start all over again. Okay. So I've got my cuts made. I think I'll cut my triangles as well so that I can show you how to do those too. And as I said, there's no particular order that you have to do these fabric pieces in. It all comes out the same way. So if you wanted to start in the middle, go right ahead and do it. And I will say, too, that there are times when I've thought I liked a combination of fabrics and I put them in, and guess what? I don't like them. So I pulled them out. But usually I can make up my mind on that pretty quickly after I do a couple of segments. So I don't get too far in before I make a decision that, no, this isn't what I had in mind for the look that I want. So again, I'm ignoring these vertical lines don't cut them. You don't need them unless you wanted to make multiple triangles and really add to your work. Honestly, I don't. And also, I like to bling mine up with beads and crystals and stuff like that. And believe me, I am not spending all outdoors on Swarovski crystals on these. Most of the stuff that I have in my stash, or I've bought with a coupon at Michael's because they're not that expensive. And even some of the beads I've had for a million years. And I just use the old-fashioned pins, and I can show you one where I did that. Actually, I think it's the same one. And just to attach the beads, I didn't even glue those on. They are done with a pin. And actually, the pins on beads work really well, simply because they stay put and they're really fast to apply. So I'm just going around. This is very boring, I know, to look at, but just to give you an idea of how this whole thing comes together. Okay, so I think I've got all of this done. Now, are there any... Deidre says, do I just glue them on? What are you talking about gluing on? Are you talking about the fabric or the beads, or what are you talking about gluing? Let me know. But, I just wanted to show you this one while I have the camera here. You can see, now I have some of these that are crystals, but these little gold balls, these are beads, and I just use those old-fashioned, I think they call them common pins, stuck them in. Even these green beads on the triangles, those are beads, and I stuck those in, also the red ones, with a pin. Some of these crystals are glued on, and I'll show you the material that I use for that. But they're really pretty. If you don't have beads, or you don't have anything like that, or crystals, and you don't want to go out and buy them, guess what? You can create the Serger chains, and they'll still look beautiful. But I have enough to keep me going till long after I'm dead, and so I just like to use them up. So, okay, so here we go. I did put 2 of the fabrics in. I'm going to show you the opposite sides. I'm going to put a red one down here and the green one with the peppermint candy ones down here. Corsage. Corsage pins might be kind of long. You could use them, definitely. But I think they might be kind of long. The little common pins, you remember those that had the little head? They're really hard to handle and hurt your hands and everything else. They're just kind of short. They're probably maybe, I don't know, like an inch and an eighth or something like that, and that's fine. In a pinch, I guess you could use the corsage pins if you had a lot of them, but you don't want them to go all the way through. I don't know. I haven't pinned on a corsage or a boutonniere for a while, so but if it works, it works. I'm all for using whatever you have and whatever makes it easiest for you. Okay, so next up, let's go back to this camera, and I'm going to put the red one in first, and I already cut a little piece. Now, when I cut the pieces, you want to cut it longer. You don't want it super, a lot bigger than the area that you're going to cover and tuck it into. But you need enough extra so that you can get it tucked in. You've got to allow for the the density of it going into these little crevices that the X-Acto knife cut. But you don't want it so big that it's kind of hard to handle. And what I like to use is the dull edge of my X-Acto knife for that. So, and sometimes it can make a difference of where you start, but I'm going to just start right along this. And you can see I'm just tucking in, and you don't want to put a lot of pressure on. You don't want to dig it in, and then instead of having a slit where your X-Acto knife cut, you don't want to dig in so much that then you've got kind of like a little furrow on that. You just want to keep that slit nice and smooth. And sometimes I have to kind of look under so that I don't miss my orientation. I think this edge is going to be, well, I think it'll be all right. So let's get this side tucked in. And it doesn't, as I said, it doesn't take a lot of pressure. These will stay put. I know when I was doing this a couple of years ago with one of my sisters, she was kind of pushing super, super hard. And she was really creating almost like a trough instead of a slit because she was putting too much pressure on. So as long as it's tucked in, it's not going to go anywhere, believe me. Okay, so there you have that. That's all done. Now, what I like to do is I like to take, and I've got them around my neck. Let me take them off, and I don't want this rolling away. I like to take a pair of small, sharp scissors. I love my Kai little scissors. And what I like to do is I lay them flat against the ball as I cut the excess fabric away from those edges. And I find if you try to use a bigger one, they're kind of bulky to cut with. So I like a little pair of nice sharp snips. These are the Kai, I think 7100s. I love these scissors for so many reasons. You want to snip off that little excess on the tip. And then we're going to go around. And I know the first time I did this with my sisters, she said, "Ooh, mine looks so messy." You know what? When you go to put your serger chain on, it covers up all of that stuff. So even if it looks a little messy, get as much of the excess off though. And as I said, my tip for that is just by holding my scissors kind of flat against it. And sometimes you do have to go back and do a little bit of extra cleanup if you didn't quite get as much off as you want to. And then we're going to, let's do our peppermint candy one right next door. So I cut that, pre-cut that. And again, obviously I cut plenty of length on that. And sometimes you have to kind of look under to get your bearings for where am I tucking in the fabric. And when you're tucking the fabric in next to one that's already tucked, you'll find it's just a little bit snugger, which is fine. And if you have a little fold or a pleat or it's puckered a little bit, just pull it out and reposition the fabric, which I have to do on a frequent basis. And that's just par for the course. So let me just look to see where my line is here. I hope you can all see this. And I'm trying not to put this. You could even also, another thing that might work is to put something kind of cushiony underneath if you want to balance it on your table, because that will help prevent getting any of those dents into the styrofoam. Did I cut this one enough? Yeah. I think I'm just in the wrong place. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to go along the bottom, the base of the triangle, or this segment. I was watching that With Love Megan on Netflix the other day. She did a holiday one. And she was showing making wreaths with her friends and doing all kinds of fun little crafts. And I thought, oh, I should probably contact her and see if she wants to do this for next year. If she's still on. So now I am, again, holding my scissors flat and cutting. So there's one. And the fabric tucking really doesn't take too long. And once you kind of get a feel for what you're doing, it moves along relatively quickly. You'd be surprised. Okay. And again, like at the top here, let me give that a little better tuck. Get that tucked in. And sometimes too, like with that little bit of excess, once you've got a fabric next to it, you can just neaten it up a little bit better. Just like that. I don't want it too close to the camera because I don't want it to get blurry. Okay, so there we have, you can see, we've got two. So let's add in what we're going to use on these triangles. And what I decided on is I had this dark green that is a match for the dark green in the candy. And I'm going to put those under or in between the red segments. And then I had this white one with the holly leaves on it, and I'm going to put that underneath the peppermint candy fabrics. So, and again, that's your choice. And I will say, let me just go back to this ball for a second, because when I did this one, I think I used 3 different fabrics instead of just 2 on these segments. And I thought, is it too busy? But you know what? When the whole thing came together, I really, really liked what it looked like. And then, but what I did do was I went, I had these batik fabrics that were the red and green. And I thought, you know what? I don't want any more real printy looking stuff on these triangles. So these kind of read a little more like a solid color. And so that worked in here. But you know, because it's the holidays, I think it's not too busy to get those extra prints in. So if you want to use 3 instead of 2 on your ball, no problem at all. You can do that. But my preference is to make the top and bottom segments on each one match each other, and then whatever you want to do in the triangles. Now, okay, so let's go back to the one we're making today. I'm going to hang this up so it doesn't go rolling off the table. Do we have any questions? Oh, Pam, yeah, you have a nice day too. And also, for anybody who can't stay for the whole thing, don't forget, you can catch whatever you missed on the recording. I am recording, so no big deal on that. Okay, so here we are back to this one. So let's put the dark green one in here to start. I think that'll be pretty. All right, so, and again, this one's a little bit shorter because the triangles are only 1.25 inches high. But again, you need enough height and width to make sure that you can get them tucked in securely. And this is what I talk about having to kind of take a peek to see exactly where you're tucking in. I think we're in the right neighborhood here. Unless, maybe I didn't cut this one. Maybe that's what my problem is. Let me check. Nope. It's always good to cut your lines if you want to tuck in. Okay. Now I'll flip over to the dull side. sometimes you can kind of feel it too with your knife. If you don't want to use the dull side of your X-Acto knife or whatever you're cutting with, just find something skinny so that, again, you're not widening out those slits. Let me just make sure I've got a deep enough cut on this one. Yeah, I do. Okay. Okay, so here we are. So here's the first triangle, and let's cut away the excess. And you can see how this corner kind of came out a little bit. All you have to do is just go back, give it another little tuck. Cut this off. Okay, so here we've got one of these done. And now let's put a white one right in here. And this is a tip. Now, if I had thought about this with the white, I'm hoping that that line does not show through. I think that well, it does a tiny, tiny little bit, but I don't think enough that anyone's going to really notice it. But that would be another reason that when you've got your elastics on and you're drawing your lines, your orange segment lines, don't draw through that center point of the center triangles, that band. Just draw down. You could draw your bands, horizontal bands on first, and then continue your line on the opposite side. And I made something similar to these with Easter eggs one time. And I found this fabric in my stash that had little bunnies on it. And it was so funny because without thinking, I had drawn my lines on the Easter egg. I can't get this tucked in here very well. I had drawn my lines on the Easter egg, and then when I put the bunny fabric in, it looked like one of the bunnies was in the crosshairs of like a rifle or something. And I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't have anything, I couldn't erase the line, so I just had to kind of live with it. But it just struck me as being kind of funny. And, but with light or white fabrics, you do want to be conscious of where your lines are being drawn, especially if you're using a dark pen. You could also probably use a pencil that wouldn't show up as much. Just make sure it's sharpened so you've got nice lines. I guess I didn't draw this or cut this one either. Yes, I did. I'm just not in the right place. Okay, just like that. I apologize if this is kind of like watching paint dry. But since somebody did ask about how to do this with these, I thought it would be kind of fun to show. And if you go on something like Pinterest, you might see other designs as well. Or on my website, when we feature these balls, if you had any questions about them, I've had people ask if I would do some kind of a booklet with the different designs in them. Let me know if you think that would be a good idea. It would be a little bit of work, and if it's not going to be all that useful for people, let me know. But okay, so this is in. But if it's something you think you would like, or you know somebody else who would like to do this who doesn't subscribe to my channel, then let me know. because I'll have another whole year to get that put together. Get this fabric cut off. And I use my serger chains for hiding the seams on this. And the thing that I love about using the serger chains is that you can really customize your colors to be a very good match for whatever fabrics you're using. Because sometimes you might have some greens or reds that are odd colors, or you know, I know some people like to decorate for the holidays with blues and pinks and stuff like that. With the serger chains, you can work your own color combination right down to the last detail. So that's why I like to use those. So, okay, so here we have it. And the white doesn't show up very well against the white of the styrofoam, but it's right here. Here's my green one. Let me just show it to you on the face camera. Okay, so here we have it. And it does look kind of messy, like I'll trim that off a little bit more. It's just 1 o'clock, so I'm gonna move this along. So then, once I had all of my segments done, all my fabric in, all of it trimmed off, blah, blah, blah. Then I am all set to work with my serger chain, and I think I just dropped it on the floor. Let me grab it. For this serger chain, this is kind of hefty because I used 2 8-weight threads. They're the metallic Wonderfill threads. Let me just go back to the screen. Okay. They're the metallic ones, and so they made a really nice chain. And serger cone with a 3-thread rolled hem stitch, stitch number 8. Because I've got 2 8-weight threads, I had my stitch length on 2.0, which sounds kind of long, but it does compensate for the thickness of both of these threads, but it makes a stunning, really, really nice chain. So then what I like to use gem tack. Where am I? Gem tack. Let me hold it like that. I like to use that to glue on the chains on the seams. And I've also used this for gluing on crystals when I'm going to do it too. The woman who cuts my hair shows horses, and she does some of these very fancy, very, very glittery, rhinestoney tops for people. They're all custom things. And I asked her what she uses to attach those, because obviously if you're showing horses and at a show, you can't have your crystals falling off as you're galloping around. And she uses gem tack. So again, you can buy that at a Michael's or a lot of those places, probably Hobby Lobby as well. What I like to do though, I'll use either that, or there are times when, depending on what I'm using, I might use some crazy glue too. Something that dries clear. That is the important thing for that. But then what I would do is on this, once I had all of these pieces, and I would want to tuck these in, say, a little bit better. I think what I would do first is go around the horizontal direction. Or no, actually, I think I would do the vertical ones first. I would go down on each one from top to the beginning of the band, get that glued on, do the same thing on the South Pole ones, go all the way around. And then for my final thing, that's when I would go around and be able to hide all the ends of those vertical chains underneath the horizontal one that's going to go all the way around. Also, if you wanted to do double or triple chains, you could do that. Let me just show you one that has um, doubles on it. This one does, but I think this one is going to show it better. This one is actually a triple chain, and it's super pretty. Okay, so you can see, let me bring it in. I think it's a little too close. I used 2 silver chains and then a red and green one in between it. So these seams are covered with 3 serger chains. So I put the red and green one on first, and then I went right next to it with the silver ones. And it looks really, really pretty. So just to give you a few different ideas, and this is just a plastic crystal, but it's effective for what it is. And I took these little tops off of some other little inexpensive thing that I had them on that I wasn't using. I think it was some sort of an ornament, but all of that. But you can see with the 3 chains, it's super pretty. Actually, I think the other one that I've been showing you has 2 chains on it now that I look at it. Yes, I used the same chain twice. I just went around each one twice. You can see them right next to each other. And then on the triangles, I used the single chain. So just to give you some ideas on that and how to create these, but they're really fun. There's no right or wrong on anything. Whatever colors you want to use together, the number of fabrics that you want to use, they're all going to look great. Oh, and then just to hang them, I just take my chain. I used a thumbtack on this one just to do that. And I think I super glued that down just so that they're very light. But depending on how many crystals or other stuff you put on it, it does add a little bit of weight to it. So I did add in the super glue on that one. But they are really fun to make. They're pretty. As I said, they take some time, but they're not expensive. They make a really nice hostess gift, or if you're just looking for a little something to give somebody as a remembrance that you don't want to spend all outdoors on, but have it be meaningful because it's made. Nothing says I love you like something that you spent time making. These are kind of nice to do. So anyway, I hope all of you have a very wonderful Christmas or Hanukkah or Kwanzaa or whatever you like to celebrate, or if you don't celebrate at all, I hope you have a very nice December and winter season, and hopefully the weather will be the way you like it. If you're a skier, I'm sure you're cheering when they report that a foot of snow is going to fall. I don't quite fall into that category, but people in my family do who are skiers. They love it. And snowboarders too. I know a lot of the younger ones, my nieces and nephews, are big into snowboarding. And I'll just tell you a really quick cute story because I think it's cute anyway. Years ago, my nephew Brendan, who's all grown up now and has children of his own, my brother, this is my brother's son, he had taken him to Vermont to go skiing for the weekend, and he was all of about 5 years old, and I think he was in kindergarten. And I'm not really sports or outdoorsy athletic or any of that stuff, but anyway, he came over to our house after they had been to Vermont, and he said, yeah, when we were up there, I saw Burton Borders. And I thought, what an unusual name for a classmate, Burton Borders. Well, then I said, oh, is that a friend of yours from school? And he kind of looked at me like I was nuts. And he's like, but then my brother jumped in and he goes, Burton boards are snowboards. And I was like, oh, okay. So anyway, but that was me. Maureen says, thank you. Deirdre, beautiful. Thank you. But if you have any questions about them, just let me know. And I will get back to you with an answer and try to help you as you go along. But I hope you had fun watching. And I will post this after I'm all done with it. I'll try to work on it today and get some more of it done. And but I'll make sure I post the finished product, and I'm working on something else too, another design that I haven't tried, and I have no idea whether it's going to look good or just be a dud. But it's working again with those 6 segments that we started with talking about, and then I did a little bit of variation on those. So I'll keep you posted on that. If it looks really good, you'll see it on my website. If not, maybe not. So anyway, oh, thank you. Your first time watching live. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm glad that you were able to do it. But anyway, going back to the holidays, I hope everybody has safe, happy holidays. And I'm sure you've all been very good, so you'll all get presents. So anyway, I wish you all the best, and I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for following me along. That really means a lot to me, and as part of the give back on these things, I put so much stuff on sale. I hope that makes it good for you if you have things on your list for yourself, or other members of your family who might be sewers and want some of these things. But I will say the vacuum is good for so many things. I've vacuumed up cookie crumbs and all sorts of stuff, so it's really great. Anyway, all right, so I will see you next month for Serger Savvy in January. I'm not quite sure what the second Tuesday of the month is. I don't have my calendar in front of me, but again, if you have ideas for things that you would like me to demonstrate, either in Serger Savvy or in a tip clip, please send them along. I'm always open to suggestions, and I want to do things that you're going to be interested in. But in the meantime, take care, all of you. Thanks for joining me today, and I will see you on YouTube again soon. Thanks.